All right, Coast to Coast Combat Hour. Edward Carbajal, as always, with Matthew Hawkins. We are coming at you the Tuesday after UFC 259. This episode, like all episodes, brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Make sure you visit AllAccessMMA.com for your MMA news. Matt, your boy Herb Dean, star of the show UFC 259. What's good? Oh, before we continue for our audio listeners, I did an interview for SureDog.com with Aaron Jeffrey, who is fighting at CFFC 93 this Friday on UFC Fight Pass. He's the main event, fighting for the middleweight title. So make sure if you're on the audio platform, you listen to that interview after Matt and I are done looking back at UFC 259. So I figured I'd open with that one, Matt, because we were literally talking about it when stuff was going on that night.
Yeah, right off the bat, the card started off extremely well. A lot of good action, and then as you said, Herb Dean decided to make his appearance, and it was after referee Mark Smith had already made a borderline stoppage. But God, I mean, we're talking about the Kai Kara France, Rogerio Bontorin fight. Fight where France was in grappling hell for the first 4.5 minutes of it or so,
Yeah,
and
that was rough.
and then he fought through it. Um, Fans watching obviously see my camera freezing. I'm not sure why, but audio seems to be holding. Yeah, so when the fight ended, we ended up with a situation where France, knocked him out or knocked his opponent down, does a walkaway KO, basically circles around the ring and then comes back around the side like he's gonna blindside his opponent. Really a weird situation. Seemed like a real lackadaisical calling of the fight from Herb Dean. I'm not sure exactly how you saw it. Obviously, I'm biased when it comes against him. It just seems like the more I say about him being lazy and being
Yeah.
kind of out of it, seems to be becoming more and more true. The more he
Well,
continues to
I
wrestle.
mean, again, I don't like to call him lazy or whatever, but I mean, it's definitely there's some. It's either, I mean, think about it. They use him so much. He's either, I don't want to say complacent, but maybe it's just becoming to covered reffing so often, so many events. Maybe there's a little burnout there, or it's you have to wonder if it's a situation if he says, "Give me a goddamn break," and they never use him again, and it costs him money. You know what I mean? So I think it's just one of those cases. Again, anyone that does anything for too long does experience some form of burnout or you know what have you. So I'm trying not to. Because I actually a big fan of Herb Dean, especially like I remember when people came on top, but we talked about it before when people jumped on him for the Tim Sylvia arm break, and people were giving him shit for that. Then it turns out that not only was it the a great move, I mean, even Sylvia himself thanked him later. So yeah, he's not, to me, he's still not at the level of Yamasaki or Mazzagatti or any of those other horrible refs. I mean, dude from earlier, Mark Smith, that was even more aggravating to me with the Medic and Cruz fight, where it looked like he was doing a Zumba workout, before he decided to jump in and stop that fight. Like he literally circled them for. I mean, when you got several members of the broadcast team, you know, freaking out, like, come on already. I don't know. I mean,
I was kind of mixed on that one, and it seemed like Twitter was a little mixed on it. I know Nolan tweeted
I
it
know.
pretty
Yeah, I was
close to
gonna
that.
say Nolan was all.
Yeah, certain people were, and I can see it from both sides. Um, I think it was pretty clear that that fight was over. It was just a matter of time. But the guy kept responding to the referee. I guess the
Yeah,
difference between me and Mark Smith is Mark Smith was kind of communicating with the guy. He was going, keep moving, stuff like that. Herb Dean just seems like it just seems like he's going through the motions. And again, like I said, I've been one of his toughest critics, so maybe I'm not the right person to constantly pick at him, but it just seems like it's just, I mean, my God, put your hand in the air, wave the fight off. That's all you have to do. Instead he acts like he doesn't know what he's doing. And it wasn't like, was the fight stopped? Was it not? If Kai Kara France runs over there
I
and
mean,
clocks the dude, is Kai Kara France suspended now for pulling like a Paul Daly move? I mean, what are we dealing with? Or is the referee going to go, oh well, I didn't really wave it off. I did nothing professional to let anybody know that the fight was stopped. I didn't even really try to help the dude who was dazed out of his ass, falling
mm,
over in front of me. Like I couldn't quite figure out what he was doing. I just
I
felt like
mean,
I
for
don't know.
me, when I'm watching a fight and someone falls frontward, face first, and they don't kind of catch themselves, that's kind of an indicator to stop the fight. I mean, I hear what you're saying because it did look like he was apprehensive when that happened, and it almost looked like he didn't know that. I get where you and a couple other people are coming from, and it's it's a little more often than I've been used to. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I honestly think there comes a point. I mean, John McCarthy would be, well, I'd rather not hear him say it. You could listen to it and then tell me if I'm right later. But if he like talks about how if that does happen with referees, you know what I mean? Like maybe that's a thing that happens. But I mean, whatever. I imagine getting referees during COVID, or times are scarce. So to me, it's either a case of burnout and he needs a break, or I don't know. But
I just wonder. I mean, I don't know what goes behind the scenes with referees. It'd be great to get one on the show one of these days because I would love to know, like, if there's a review process. Do they sit? Do they all get together after the event and watch the fights? Is there any kind of like, why didn't you wave this off, Herb? Like when you ran over there and you made contact with Kai Kara France, when he ran into you, you didn't really grab him. He just kind of circled back into you when he was doing his walk off KO, and then he bounced off you, and then you went over to the other dude, and you didn't wave it off yet. You're standing over his body as he's trying to stand back up and then falling back over. And then you see the dude circle around and come from the right side, about ready to clock the guy. At that point, you push him away. I mean, what? Again, like if Herb had clearly stopped that fight, don't you think there would have been a nice like F bomb for France? Like, what the
mm,
fuck are you doing coming around here? Like, you're gonna, hammer fist the dude who's on the ground? Like, there was no, because Herb knew that he didn't do any clear stoppage. Otherwise, he would have been more forceful with France. The whole thing was chaos. He's looking around like he doesn't know what to do. And again, I feel like it just gets worse and worse. So I don't know. My fear is that one day he's going to cost somebody big time. I mean, one might argue he cost Robbie Lawler. That one was way questionable. The bulldog choke with Askren, but and as far as the face plant goes, I tend to agree with you. I don't like the walk off KO, especially for a 125 pounder. This isn't Mark Hunt putting somebody down. There's a good chance the dude's going to bounce his face off the ground, roll over, and probably still be semi conscious. So we do have a little bit of a, I do understand the referee wanting to get a look at somebody, but you can't just, it can't be lackadaisical. And
yeah.
one day somebody's
Well,
really going to get hurt, and or he's going to cost somebody. It's just going to be a terrible stoppage. I feel like we're just getting closer, and he keeps getting the big fights. I mean, he gets the
well,
main event after that, and it's
I mean, let's get off of that and move a little
yeah.
bit up ahead to the co-main event because it looks like there's some. As we're recording this, it looks like there's some breaking news. Apparently, I mean, I'm not sure the context because I didn't see it. I actually got the alert when she went live, but Megan Anderson said on during her Twitch stream that the UFC women's featherweight division is folding.
hmm
Um,
I did
she
see that
lost
as well.
her co-main event uh bout against Amanda Nunes, which is I don't know, man. I mean, if that's the case with the if I mean because
If that's the case, it's the best news for the women's 145-pound division. Those women can go fight in Bellator, where they actually have a real division, and they can fight
mm,
real women that are 145 pounders.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's no, like Megan Anderson's not getting rich fighting for the UFC. Let's be serious. She's going to make probably the
Yeah,
same purse fighting for Bellator.
no, she just made Twitch a partner, so
You know what
she's
I mean?
making her
Like,
money there.
yeah, yeah, I feel like that's fine. The UFC never wanted the 145-pound division.
No, they
The only reason
definitely,
they
yeah,
did it is to block Cyborg at the time from going to Bellator,
yeah.
and they created it for. That was all it was created for. And the bottom line is they lined up Nunes. Nunes was their golden goose to beat Cyborg, was a way to
Yeah.
push Cyborg out the door, and then they just had to go through the motions here. You give all other two, your other two, you give Spencer and you give Megan Anderson a shot. Nobody else is even a 500 record in that division. So I mean, I don't know. There's up and coming girl from the Contender Series who's fighting Spencer coming up. That's going to be the last light heavyweight or the last flyweight fight. Um,
Yeah. I mean, who,
Featherweight
I
fight.
mean, then what do they do with people like Spencer and the, like,
They let them go and they go to Bellator. They
I
go to
guess so.
PFL.
That's true. They do have to cut their roster. You keep talking about their inflated roster, so this is probably part of that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, actually.
I mean, who else are they going to fight? At least Bellator has like 5, 6, 7, 8 girls. I mean, they're 5, 6 deep at that weight class. Um, and I mean, Megan Anderson, Julia Budd sounds like a fun fight to me. I mean, there's some cool potential fights there. So I don't think it's a problem. Nunes can go back down to 135, not hold up that division. Um, and she can always claim to be the double champ, and UFC can promote her as that. And if some Goliath comes along who's kicking ass at 145, and if Kyla Harrison drops down one day and wants to challenge her just for an off 145 fight, then it's available. You still got. It's not like the belt disappears. It's not like the UFC can't just have a fight. You
Yeah,
have a
no,
145 pound. I mean, they'll do whatever
they
they got to do to make
they
money.
did the BMF thing out of the blue, so that, I mean,
Exactly.
yeah. So
So, I mean, I
yeah,
think it's great for Bellator. I think it's potentially great for PFL. I mean, anybody that wants to do a division with 145, you just got now you got 4, 5, 6 other girls now
yeah.
available. And Bellator now, if Bellator could sign them all of a sudden that division's looking pretty good.
Hey,
You know,
there's a women's featherweight tournament. There you go.
I mean, you get real close. I mean, Anger Fist versus either of these girls.
Yeah.
Like I said, Bud, Cyborg, Noguera. I mean, there's some other uh, girls at that weight class. So, um, but anyway, so that to recap that fight. No disrespect to Megan Anderson, but it was basically a squash match. Cyborg or not Cyborg,
Gonna say, what are you gonna recap?
Nunez goes out there. I mean, I guess I gotta pat myself a little bit on the back, saying that I thought Nunez might go for the takedown, which she really didn't. She just ended up on the ground. But once that happened, it was quick submission time.
I
Inverted
mean,
triangle
listen,
armbar.
I know Anderson's more capable of than what we saw. Like, given her height and reach advantage that she could have had and used. I honestly do think there was a shot of her walking into the arena that folks were commenting she didn't look too good. She was, she didn't look like she was healthy or whatever. So who knows if there was weight cut issues or what have you, or it could be nerves. I feel like we've seen her. I don't want to say fold under the pressure, but we've definitely seen her underperform when she's been on these dominant streaks, and I wonder how much of that is mental warfare in her own head that she does to herself. There was definitely some apprehension that I kind of just got from watching as soon as it started. I know there's not a lot to watch; it was over pretty fast, but I feel like maybe I feel like sometimes when she gets to the big show or whatever you want to call it, because she's been there, but I just feel like that's not the I think the first time I noticed it was when she fought Spencer, right? Didn't she lose to her?
Um, yeah, she
Yeah,
did.
so I feel like that's when I noticed that, and then I just got that same vibe again because I really like Megan Anderson a lot, actually. I mean, I watched her, climb to the title in Invicta, and you know, top of being a hot ass Australian tall chick. You know what I mean? like I've definitely was on board with her. Actually, I put money on her to win because she was such a huge underdog. It was hard not to, but
I saw
there
the
goes
same
my five
photos.
dollars.
Yeah, I saw the same photos and the same video as you did of her walking into the arena. Usually, I tend to be a little bit. I don't put a lot of weight in those because they seem to. I seem to you see people say that all the time. Oh, they don't look right or whatever, and then it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. This time, she actually did kind of have a look in her eyes where it caught my
yeah,
attention, and it seemed to have caught your attention and some other people. I also felt like when she was even in the ring, I was kind of having like that Leon Spinks Mike Tyson moment where like she looked again, and I don't have any idea what the mental situation of an MMA fighter at this level is, but she looked like you said nervous. I don't really want to say scared, but she looked like nerves or something had taken over.
Mhm.
Even when she got hit, she seemed like she was kind of stiff and kind of, it just didn't seem like there was anything there that night for her. It seemed like it was just going through the motions, and maybe that's just Nunes. Maybe that's just how good Nunes is, that she can make somebody look like that. But it didn't seem right. Something definitely felt off, and and who knows what it was, or if it was just nerves, or it was nothing, and we're just seeing stuff that wasn't
Yeah.
there. But yeah, interesting. Again, Nunes goes down to light heavy, or I see like exactly these are heavyweights. She goes back down to the bantamweight 135,
Yeah,
and it looks like
Dana White said
Juliana
he wants to.
Pena.
Yeah, Dana White said he wants to turn her around quickly. So, I mean, I don't know if that's picking up enough steam to make that happen. I feel like Amanda Nunes is someone that doesn't do quick turnarounds, especially because she's smart. One of the things we saw about how good she is, she's smart about when she prepares for her fights. If you look at her fights at 145 against people, she always wanted to take the extra time to acclimate herself, to putting on the weight and stuff like that, and being strong at that weight. And she does the same thing when she goes down. So I feel like a quick turnaround with her is probably not going to happen. But I mean, Juliana Payne is certainly vying to make it happen. But I mean, that'll get announced when it gets announced. I mean, I think the bigger. It's funny that we're talking about that fight first, and then I mean, obviously we talked about the referee stuff or whatever. But another one where actually one of the referees we talked about was the ref. The odd change of title for Sterling and Peter Yan. I mean, what's your take on the title changing hands over a DQ? You cool with it, or like what? I mean, they're obviously going to have to do it again anyway.
So again, I mean, the fight went as I kind of felt like it was going to go. Jan was taking over. I thought he'd finished fighting the fourth round. He did. I didn't realize it would be an illegal knee and lead to a disqualification. Um, well, I wore the pride shirt today in honor of Peter Yan, because he was trying to live apparently by the proper rule set, just not the one that the UFC allows. I wouldn't. I don't know. I mean, it was a stupid move. He made a mistake. He's got to pay the price for it. I liked the Aljamain Sterling that was like, "This is bullshit. I don't want to win a title like this," a lot more than the "let's do selfies with the title and try to make
Mm.
excuses." Now looking at the stats and the scorecards, which were asinine. I mean, I don't even. One judge had him winning that fight, and you want to talk
Yeah,
about
I actually just brought it
investigation?
up.
I'd
Ron McCarthy had scored it 28-29 for Sterling. Um, and
I
then
mean,
the other
yeah, I
Derek Clearly and Sal D'Amato scored it 29-28 for Jan.
so with that said, with that scoring, had they given a 2-point deduction, which would have been totally proper considering the level of the knee that it was. You would have the one judge, I think he said McClary or McCarthy. He would have that would have essentially locked up the fight for Sterling, no matter what happened in the fifth round. The other two judges, it would have been a 9-9 round because Jan still would have won the round.
Hmm.
So it would have been 9-8. I'm sorry. So it would have only been a
Yeah,
1-point difference. So it would
yeah.
have been even on those cards going in. You got to believe Jan still wins the fifth round. I
That's
just go ahead.
that one of the things that Dana White said was like, what was up with like he said they were giving out 10-8 rounds like they were hotcakes, So there was definitely something up with the judging that night. I mean, I didn't look it up all the scorecards, but I mean, my thing is, listen, I mean, there's a lot going on when you're pretty much it's controlled violence, two guys fighting and competing against each other. There's a lot going on. Um, I don't know the based on the rules set up, you know, the title change hands that it happened how it happened. I don't get the hate that people are hating on Sterling or Jan over it.
No, no,
It's
no.
fucking stupid. You know what I mean?
I have
But
no problem with saying Jan is dumb for throwing that knee. I have no problem for somebody thinking that it was a stupid, irresponsible move from throwing that knee. And I don't think
mhm.
he'll deny that. He said he threw it. He made the mistake. He's
Yeah,
going to pay the price. So I have no problem with that. I also have no problem with Sterling with Aljo taking the title and going with it. I just think that he needs to be fair to himself.
Especially
Realize that
when he's clearly that he's not happy about it.
initially that's what it was, and then it was
Hmm.
like, and then they told him, well, you were up on a scorecard. Oh, well, look at the stats. We all know how that goes. The stats don't tell the story. He was on the verge of getting knocked out. It was really, he was either going to get knocked out or he was going to lose the decision. At least that's what we thought prior to the cards. I we know a rematch is coming.
Hmm.
I mean, if I'm Sterling, I'm looking at it like, because I just won the lottery, right? Because he
Hmm.
got paid a title fight purse, and now he gets another one. He wasn't going to get another one. He was going to be
Hmm.
5 fights away from another title fight. Now he gets another one, and where he's going to, in theory, be the champion. Now
Hmm.
he gets if it well, I don't know what the Reebok expiring, but in theory, he would get the championship
Soon.
sponsor money. So
Yeah.
he'd get like $40,000 more. I mean, there's a lot of things that come with just being labeled the champion.
Yeah.
Um, so he might as well roll with it. But I just think it should be more like, hey, I was getting my ass kicked. I got the belt. Shouldn't have happened that way. I'm gonna train better for the next time, and I'm gonna
Hmm.
beat Peter Yan, and we're gonna have a trilogy. I mean, that's how it should be going down. Not this. Oh well, look. If you look at how many punches I landed from my back in round two, like no, 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 no.
I
But
mean, I think, I mean, and of course, I'm a fan of Sterling, so I think he's definitely got the tools and the know how on how to beat him. There were some things he was doing that I'm surprised Ray Longo and them didn't kind of like say to stop doing, like continuing to go for take. You were losing those battles with Peter Young's, how he kept doing those trips and sweeps on him, and it's like, so how about you stop doing that and just keep trying to fire away and counterpunch and stuff like that. Even if you're running away and counterpunching, you could win on the scorecards with significant strikes. And that's, I mean, not for nothing that he doesn't need to hear me say that. That's the kind of fighter Sterling is. I mean, proven to be smarter, but I think it was Daniel Cormier that kind of noticed that there was a weird in his movements and the way he was fighting. There was a weird like urgency that to the point that it was making him do things, like he almost the best way I could say is like almost like he wanted it too bad, you know.
well, he came out like he was in like a 3 minute K1 fight.
Hmm.
I mean, and the announcers even said it. If he can keep up this pace for 24 more minutes, then he's going to be the champion. But the bottom line is you can't keep up that pace.
Hmm.
So I think in the rematch, I think he comes out more I want to say slower, but more controlled, and and he certainly can win the fight. I just think he will. I just don't think he does. I think Jan is that much
Hmm.
better. And maybe that doesn't, a submission could happen at any time. I just think if they fought 10 times, Jan wins more of them.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Right now in the theory, the books say it's 1-0 Sterling. So
Yeah.
and as far as it going, the belt changing place on a DQ, it's the only way you can do it. There's
You
no
know what,
you have to punish the champion. You can't allow you can't
yeah.
allow the champion to DQ themselves
Yeah.
like it's WWE to keep their belt.
Well, I mean, John Anik and Kenny Florian's podcast, they had Dominic Cruz on today, and they asked him about it, and he actually said something really, really interesting that stuck with me. And he was like, there's a lot of things you stand for as a champion, and one of the things is someone that you should know the rules, and you should be able to conduct yourself as a champion by acknowledging the rules. And the fact that he had to look off to the side and get permission or whatever the case was to throw. Again, a lot goes on in a short amount of time, so I'm not trying to rag on anybody, but I kind of, that's the side I'm leaning on. I don't think Sterling should be too hard on himself for getting the title that way, especially they're going to do it again. And he actually, Aljamain Sterling's got his own YouTube channel, Weekly Scraps, where he addressed it in full today. I'll probably write some stuff on it later for one of the outlets I write for, but busy. It's been, pay-per-view weekends are always, busy for me before, through, and long after. So we're just coming off of that. But yeah, man, I mean, yeah, before we move on, you'll get a kick out of this because I mentioned it when I did the MMA News Sunday thing that I do for the Sunday submission. That that whole situation with the title changing hands over off of a DQ. I know they say that's the first one in UFC history, but it reminded me of when Randy Couture lost I think it was a light heavyweight title Vitor Belfort with it.
UFC 46. I was going to
Yeah,
bring that up. Yep. I
yeah.
was at that fight. Won money on Belfort that night. Won $100 in what 11 seconds or whatever. But yeah, same closest scenario that
Yeah,
we've
it's
ever
like
had in the
it's a
UFC.
technicality that's because of the way the rules are written and how it was stopped. The titles are changing hands of the technicality, and Randy Couture got the title back in the rematch.
He destroyed him.
So
UFC 49.
yeah,
I was at that one too. Yeah,
mhm.
no, yeah, it very somewhat similar. I mean, you didn't have a situation where the guy winning the belt was TKO'd on the
Yeah,
ground, but you know, to me, Mighty Mouse. I actually saw his comment on it, and he said it best: the rules need to change. You shouldn't be able to get on your hands. You shouldn't be able to sit on your knees and stall a fight.
mm.
And I've said it in the past before. Like Sterling was essentially in the safest position he could be in an
Yeah,
MMA fight. The only option that was left, pretty much for Jan, was to bend over and try to punch him in the face.
yeah. Well, I mean, but and that
That's
goes
the
back
rules.
to
It's the rules.
yeah, it goes back to Cruz's point. If you're the
But what?
champion
But
of that promotion that follows those rules, again, like you said, Mighty Mouse is in Singapore fighting Pride rules. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I got you. But
yeah.
like, was instant replay available? Like we talk about rules, but I honestly don't know what they are anymore because we have the downed opponent rule is different
Yeah, it
depending on where
varies.
you
It seems
go.
like it almost seems like it varies like every event we.
So with that
Yeah.
said, like I've seen still shots right after the knee hits, and it
Mhm.
shows Sterling's knee off the ground. Now
Mm.
I'm willing to use my brain and figure that if I drove a knee into someone's face, like I might raise them an inch off the ground.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but with that said, like unless it was happening behind the scenes, there was no replays.
Mm.
Nobody ever said, "Hey, let's look and see if his knee creeps off the ground." Like, so I don't know. Like, were replays not available in Nevada on Saturday, or was it something they didn't bother looking at because it looked so obvious? I mean,
Yeah,
again, it's the rules, but and Cruz is 100% right, but it's
yeah.
also the problem with the UFC
I want
in
Dominic
that,
Cruz to be my life coach.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
just don't be his sponsor. Um, that
that
was a
was a weird. That was
that's a
weird.
weird situation, and
Yeah.
that Hans Molenkamp, somebody that I've seen around for like 20 years now. He's based out of I have relatives that worked with him when they were like teenagers and stuff. So he's been around a long time, and I've always kind of wondered what his deal was, but I've never seen anybody badmouth him before, and that was kind of a weird situation. So we'll see
Apparently,
how.
Dana White badmouthed him some years ago.
Yeah, but that
The,
was over his like sponsorships.
the
That's Dana
Almighty
White.
Fight Oracle shared a screenshot of it, and I was just like, "Ooh,
Well,
that's
I don't
interesting."
know, not to go too long on this, but I doubt you saw it. But on Instagram, Joey Beltran put out a video on it, and him being from San Diego, and he said, "Here's what I see." He goes, "I've known Dominic Cruz and I've known Hans Molenkamp for since the day I started MMA, 2008 in San Diego." He goes, "Dominic's one of my best friends." He goes, "Hans is one of my best friends." He goes, "There's been two situations in my life where I wanted to kill Hans Molenkamp, but what did I do?" He goes, "I got in my car, I drove to his door, I knocked on his door, I got in his face, and we settled it like men, and we figured out our business." He goes, "Publicly airing it out like that's just not gonna it's not gonna do any favors, and if anything, it's just gonna cost Cruz some money." I mean,
Yeah,
but I don't know the whole story.
yeah.
So anything happened.
What's
Luke
up,
Lopez
Luke?
says, "Up,
Luke
y'all."
Lopez. Luke
Sup?
Lopez comes over from MMA News. He follows the Sunday Submission. Came from watches that and became a subscriber of this. So shout out Luke Lopez for supporting the brand. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. So that brings us then. So you had Nunes defend. You had Jan lost his belt with the DQ, and then you had the main event: Jan Blachowicz, Israel Adesanya. Again, my prediction.
Yo,
I gotta bat myself on the back. I
no,
was
well,
5 for 5 on the main card if it
yeah,
wasn't for the
no,
DQ.
no, yeah, yeah, no, you're right about that. But listen, I mean, this fight, like when it was over, I was just like, you know what? Time to jump off of the this whole Adesanya light heavyweight. Like let that go. I mean, what we saw that night, and again, Adesanya still he's the probably the greatest middleweight. Next to Anderson Silva that's running that division right now. But even John Jones, in the middle of the fight, John Jones put on his Instagram he was like, I guess that super fight ain't happening. And I was just like, no, sir, not after what we saw. I
No.
mean,
And people fall in love with the idea of these smaller guys going up in divisions and just cleaning house. And we've seen it in certain cases, but not like anybody who watched any of Adesanya's fights without being biased either direction knew that if he gets taken down, he's in trouble. I mean,
mhm.
he's a kickboxer. It's not. We're not. I don't think we should be shocked that he gets out grappled by a gigantic man who's pretty damn good at grappling. Like
Yeah.
and then when you put together the fact that like striking wise, it's you're pretty even. When you're going up a
Yeah.
weight class, your power doesn't carry over. I mean, there's just a lot there, and it was always what I kind of suspected would happen eventually is Adesanya would just be a fish out of water on the ground. I mean, he's
Mhm.
not throwing up triangles and stuff like Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was a legit black belt. He just never used it, and at times it kind of looked like he was a little bit lackadaisical on the ground, but it was because he never had to use it ever. Now, Adesanya in the same boat hasn't had to use it a lot, but if he wants to continue to grow and beat these guys, because in theory, there's some guys at middleweight who should be able to take him down.
Mhm.
In theory, a Gastelum rematch, Gastelum could spam
Oh yeah,
takedowns.
yeah.
If Weidman ever got to a title fight, he'd be somebody who would threaten takedowns.
Mhm.
Kevin Holland might even be somebody in a year or two when he gets to a
Oh
title.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Probably
Like
sooner.
maybe even sooner. But
Yeah.
you've got 3, 4, 5 guys at middleweight who, in theory, if they use the right game plan, could and go for the grappling, could really throw Adesanya off. And again, that's all. Everybody gets sucked into the striking, and Adesanya could have easily been knocked out Blachowicz in the first 3 rounds. He just didn't. And then by that time, But you want to talk about? I mean, again, we go after the refs. We're going after everybody. That was some of the worst commentary I've ever seen in my life for a fight. And I think that Joe Rogan and Cormier should be ashamed at how they called that fight. I
Why?
thought it was you didn't hear that they laughed. They at the end of the second round they laughed about Blachowicz getting outstruck.
Oh.
They broke into a
Huh.
joke about it, and they started
I
laughing
mean,
out.
maybe I wasn't paying that much attention.
They were saying how Jan needed a finish.
I mean, because
Like
that fight, I was just so much more focused on but especially when he got when Blachowicz got his hands around him and locked him to his lower back and got that takedown. What was that, round 2 or 3? I think it was. I was just like, and then to hear Adesanya explain it because he was giving his end of things. It's what I gotta say too. I'm jumping all over, but the thing that if anything pissed me off about that was when it was over. Why the hell did they interview the loser first before speaking with Blachowicz? I mean, maybe there was something going on with getting a translator or whatever, but in my mind, I was like, don't you talk to the winner first?
I
You know?
I figured it's probably because Blachowicz is taking extra photos in the ring with his corner man, and
Mm.
they're spending a little more time celebrating while
Yeah, it must have
Adesanya's
been
trying to get
something.
out of there. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I just know that, if you were blind listening to that fight, you thought Adesanya won 3 rounds to 2. They had it 3 rounds to none. Adesanya going into the 4th round, and every other judge's scorecard had Blachowicz winning the first 2 rounds. I mean, he won. He outstruck him every round. There wasn't out of the 5 rounds, he outstruck him every single round. And I just it was pretty. I mean, if you wouldn't go back and listen to it, I think you'd be shocked because I was sitting there
Mm.
going, "This is crazy." Like, am I even watching? And I went
I will.
online, and a lot of the people say, and then like I said, at the end of the second round, uh, Joe Rogan made a joke about, well, Blachowicz can't stand here with Adesanya. He's getting outstruck left and right, and Cormier starts laughing. Oh yeah, oh, he's getting outstruck. It's
Mm.
you know there it is. John gets zero respect. Exactly, Luke. Yeah, it was crazy, and I think he'll get it now. But I was just shocked. The biasness was crazy, and
Mhm.
it's not surprising. It happens all the time, and happens with me, happens with you, happens with commentators. But
Yeah.
my God, it like I just can't imagine making a joke about somebody being
No,
outstruck,
I'll,
and then
I'll have
when
to.
the stats come out, it shows that you're wrong.
Yeah.
To me, it makes you look kind of like a fool. But again, most
Yeah.
people it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
and I think that's why like a lot of people were shocked at the cards,
Yeah.
and I'm going, I don't know what you're
I mean,
shocked at. Like
yeah.
I
No.
thought
No.
I had it 5-0, Jan. The referees had the judges had it 4 rounds to 1.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, am I crazy? Am I crazy thinking it's 5 rounds to none? Because the commentators are telling me that Adesanya's won this fight, unless it's a 10-8 round. And I'm going, well, but neither here nor there. Huge win for Jan Blachowicz. Looks like Glover Teixeira is next, which will be a
Yeah,
really fun fight.
so that was one of the things. The other thing that folks were kind of, sometimes there's a self correction that occurs, and I feel like thankfully that, now they did this little Adesanya experiment that it failed, so now they can get back to the actual business of this division, and the rightful person gets to fight. None of this, like they're chasing Khabib forever. How many dinners is Dana White going to take Khabib out to before they make a final decision on that whole thing? But there's a couple of other just talking about stuff from the light heavyweight division, the opener for the main card. Remember we were talking about Thiago Santos and coming off of injuries, and I know he's put something on social. I didn't get to see what it was, but do you think he's got a case of the yips or whatever they call it in baseball when you need like a sports psychologist or
Well, after what I saw on Saturday, if I'm Anthony Smith and I'm Thiago Santos, I'm trying to figure out how to get back down to 185. If I'm Anthony Smith, I want a chance to wrestle Adesanya. If I'm Kamaru Usman, I'm calling for a double title fight next weekend with Adesanya. Seriously, that's really the fight that should be made, especially if Adesanya is going to weigh in at 200 pounds. Like he didn't even bulk up. It was like, oh, I'm just good enough. I'm going to go mop the floor with this Polish guy. Like it was not even like, so to me, Usman, if I'm Usman, I'm going, dude, if he's going to weigh 200 max, and that's his natural weight, and I can weigh 190 max, dude, give me that guy.
Yeah.
I can wrestle. I can get him down, wrestle, and lay on top of him and become a double champion.
Yeah.
To me, that's the opening that we see. And now to me, it's up to Adesanya to prove now the doubters like me wrong. He's going to have to he's going to have to stop that. He can't get taken down in another fight and get grinded out like that, because he didn't put up there was no threat. There was no, so I don't know.
So
but
did overall UFC 259? I think it was a pretty good card overall. I didn't like the main event, but the co-main, obviously the co-main and the bantamweight title fight, made for some interesting conversation afterward. But overall, I thought the card was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was one of the better for 15 fights. There really wasn't any that stood out that I wouldn't watch again.
How about that we didn't lose any fights? that was an amazing.
That's the craziest thing. That might go down as the biggest upset of the year.
Yeah, imagine if we could have put some action on that. I bet I would imagine there was some website out there taking action on a perfect card. Who?
Man, yeah, I don't know, but UFC keeps rolling. So like I said, the difference between this card and something like the one next week is that this one had, the names, the fights meant stuff. Now we're going to see where this is going to go. It doesn't mean much. Nothing can mean more than all of a sudden a division no longer existing because of the results of a fight.
I'm wondering. We're getting this. I think I can. Her stream is going to be up, so when we're done with this, I'm going to go on Twitch and see what she said specifically. But it looks like people are going crazy over what she said, and it's just like people are still talking about it as we're doing this.
There's not enough. The UFC doesn't have enough females in that division. Like, what does she think? And it's been clear since day one. If the UFC wanted to have that division, they wouldn't have only signed 4 fighters.
So apparently, one of the things Dana White said at the post-fight press conference was that when addressing the featherweight division, he wants to keep it cranking as long as Nunes wants to continue defending the title. So maybe she said something. She's a new mom now or whatever. So who knows?
For now, say that again. For Nunes,
as long as Nunes wants to keep defending that title, they'll keep the division cranking.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that's. I think that they're going to let her keep the title, and they're going to let her keep the title of champion.
Yeah.
In case something comes up, and they can always promote her as a double champion. But there's nobody to defend it against. She's already beat the other 2 other girls. She already beat Spencer and Anderson. And I don't think you're not going to have a person off the Contender Series with like 3 pro fights fighter now. And that person's going to get loose to Spencer when they fight because she has no ground game. I mean, it's there's just not it's just not there. I mean, the reality was if UFC really wanted to have that division going,
So
then they
about
would have never
Felicia
let.
Spencer, I thought she did have a ground game.
No, I mean the girl she's fighting from the Contender Series, I think has very little
Oh,
rudimentary
okay.
ground game. So that's what I mean. Spencer's as a result of being a as good of a female grappler as there is, she's going to take this other chick down
I
and
see.
probably
Okay.
finish her quick. So there's not like it's not like you're going to go, oh well, maybe an upset will happen and we have another title contender. I highly don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I feel like if the UFC was serious about this, they would have never let Cyborg go. You know, if you
Yeah.
really,
Well.
I mean, people were clamoring for a Nunes Cyborg rematch even after that first fight when it was a minute knockout. You could have sold a rematch for that the next weekend, and a million people would have bought it.
Yeah.
You know, if you really wanted to push that division, and then and Bellator doesn't have a 145-pound women's division really if Cyborg's not over there. I mean, you had Julia Budd, but right now the roles would be reversed. Bellator would be looking at how to fold that division. So, like I said, I think it works out great for Bellator. I think you got the release. Who did the UFC release the other day? We got some big names.
JDS and
JDS and
Overeem.
Overeem. I mean, Jesus Christ, Bellator's got a chance to really stock up. PFL announced their heavyweight roster today, so I was wondering if they were going to try to do a last minute deal to try to get one of those guys to jump in, but it looks to me like that tournament's set up for Overeem, or I'm sorry, for Fabricio Verdun to pull it off.
Well, I mean, the thing about the PFL is you never know. I mean, a lot of people thought Jake Shields was going to be the guy for their welterweight or John Fitch or any of those guys, and then Ray Cooper came out and ruined the party for everybody. So that's what's cool about the PFL is that they definitely
No, anything
even
can happen.
yeah.
I'm just saying that I would without looking at the odds, I would have to believe Verdun's the favorite. I know Justin Willis is in it, and in theory, I guess he could cause some problems if he's able to get dudes down. But I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, but I think it works out best for Bellator. Bellator could really pick up a lot of names in the next week or two if they start coming in. I know Ryan Bader was calling for Overeem and JDS to join their heavyweight roster.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the guys still got a couple fights left in them, and there's some interesting potential matchups
Yeah.
if you want to go about that route. But yeah, fun event. Like I said, the UFC is on again this weekend. Bilal Muhammad, Leon Edwards main event. That's under your favorite ESPN Plus platform. So we're not going to get too deep into that. We'll talk about some of the results next week. Stay tuned now for the on the audio version for Ed's interview with Aaron Jeffrey, fighting in the CFFC 93 main event this Friday night on UFC Fight Pass for the middleweight world title of CFFC. Until then, fans can always check us out at allaccessmma.com. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Oldhead Carb on Twitch. Ed, find out what Megan Anderson's got to say and let us know next week where we're at with that division.
Yes, sirree.
Have a good night, brother.